Attention all Star Wars fans, this is a Rebel transmission. My dear fellow fan friends, jcat here. I am here today to talk to you about Star Wars in perfect sequence timeline order, the order you're really supposed to watch it in. Now, pay close attention. This is important on where you need to start. The timeline, even though they haven't made a movie of it where it begins, is the Old Republic. As Obi-Wan said, before the dark times, before the empires, when we were peacekeepers. And he's talking about that video game you all heard of, the Old Republic. In this video game, there is conflict between Sith, Jedi, and this is before the Sith went extinct for millennia. You have to really pay close attention to that video game. If you don't feel like playing the game, I suggest you look it up on YouTube, because they do have little short movies on YouTube about it. So that is where you start. The next one would be Young Jedi Adventures. That cartoon that has just premiered on Disney Plus takes place even before the prequel. So that's in that timeline of the Old Republic era. Probably where the Acolytes are going to take place. We actually go on to a simpler timeline, one that you guys might already know. We go on to Tales of the Jedi. In this timeline, this is after the Sith went extinct for millennia, but when the Jedi were starting to get their order up in the army of the New Republic, because, well, the Senators were being Senators then, the Republic Jedi were being Republic Jedi, and they were peacekeepers. So this is actually before the Clone War even. So this is where it all begins. But yet there is a prophecy on the horizon of a chosen one. This chosen one would bring balance to the Force, and it's been told in the Jedi since the decades of the Old Republic. We move on to the detailed story of the Phantom Menace, where we go on the adventures and the Jedi are being peacekeepers, making negotiations, but yet in the trade route there is evil afoot and lots of nasty separatists who want to just mess up things and cause war on planets where there shouldn't be wars. The queen of the planet, Padme Amidala, it's really upset about that. Like, you're causing war on my planet? I don't think so. Asking the Republic for help. So then we take you on a journey to save the queen, but we accidentally crash land on a planet, Tatooine, where we meet a small boy named Anakin Skywalker, one of my personal favorite characters. But when they tested his blood sample, turns out he was stronger with the Force than any known Jedi. Could he be the chosen one? Now, they took him to Coruscant, but the Jedi Council didn't want to train him because they sensed a lot of fear in him. And as you know, fear is a dark side, and that's why they feared him, even if he was the chosen one. He still had to learn about a lot of the Force, and so Obi-Wan steps in and tries to train him the best he can, but obviously his training wasn't enough. We move on to the timeline of Episode 2, but there's big trouble here, because it's a total Cleopatra story. Padme, Anakin, they fall in love, dangerous business there. Whoa, warning, and get married behind the council's back. But this will cause a lot of trouble in the long run. So when Yoda says, "Begone, the Clone War has." And that would be the time era of Star Wars The Clone Wars. And seriously, fans, if you have not seen Star Wars The Clone Wars and you want to know more about Star Wars, I really recommend you watch this series. It's really good, and don't stop. You must watch all 7 seasons. Trust me, you will understand it way better after you're done. And then it goes on to tell you the story of how the Clone War began. But on the horizon, there is a detailed story you must all watch in this series. That's a really important scene. Season 3 of Clone War, called Overlord. which is a 3-part marathon called Mortis. The Ahsoka series that's coming up. If you do not want to watch the whole Clone Wars series, I at least recommend you watch these 3 episodes. Trust me, this is important. And of course, that's where the timeline takes place there. We're right in the midst of Clone War. Now, I'll take you to an even further off timeline, which is episode 3. 3 comes in. This is the detail of where Anakin starts feeling a disturbance that he's not the Jedi he should be, and starts to get really anxious, like I want more and I know I shouldn't, fearing for his girlfriend Padme's life. Because he's afraid he's gonna lose her because, well, for one, stress with the council, and number 2, the fear of his nightmares that he's been having, just like he did with his mother back in episode 2, where she dies, and then Padme is probably gonna follow her in childbirth when she has her 2 twins, because she's pregnant with 2 very familiar characters you might recognize from the trilogy, Luke and Leia. Yeah, Padme would be that mother of the 2 twins. And then, like, it goes on to the timeline to tell you that in that episode, when Anakin turns to the dark side, Padme gets herself killed trying to save Anakin from the dark side. Yeah, and Obi-Wan has to fight him, but then he ends up getting his limbs cut off and turning into the legendary we all know today. Yeah, so that's where that comes in. And then we move on from that time era into another time era. The time of darkness, where it takes place in the Bad Batch. The droid tales, and it goes to tell you the timeline of Force Unleashed, timelines like that. Whereas the timeline of darkness, where the Empire's taken over, and it seems like there's no hope, but yet rebels in the midst are starting to rise in the name of hope. We'll create the Rebel Alliance, including in the story of Star Wars Solo, a Star Wars story. That's where that takes place, and the rebels slowly began to rise, along with Star Wars Rebels. That's where that takes place, and I would recommend you watching Star Wars Rebels too. Yeah. Creating the story of, well, I would even recommend that you guys watch the Lego specials, because even those have parts that take place in the timeline of canon. Freemakers and stuff, they really do take a timeline of telling you some extra detailed stories you might not have known. Easter eggs, as they call them. And are you Andor fans out there? I know Andor isn't the best, and it's probably not the most action-packed, but it still takes place in the canon universe, so that part is good. Also, the timeline of Rogue One, down to the point where we head into the timeline, you guys know it, the trilogy, where you're in the timeline of A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back, and all that good stuff. Return of the Jedi, Rebellion, when hope is just starting to return to the galaxy, and finally, the big battle with the Death Star. Hello, Ewoks on Endor, and time to get ready for the big battle. Luke goes up to try and get his father to come back to the light, telling his sister, oh, she's a part of the Skywalker family, and the fact that Luke knows that Darth Vader is his dad now, so he has to go try to save him. And then, finally, Anakin gets up the courage to fulfill his destiny as the Chosen One by throwing Darth Sidious over a reactor shaft. Yeah! Boom! Fireworks! The rebels win! Anakin, yeah! Looking good as a Force ghost, yo! We move on to the grandest timeline ever. The timeline of the New Republic. Oh, such a peaceful timeline. Yeah, planets are getting back to having fun with like a Republic city, and oh yeah, Mandalorians are out saying this is the way. Ahsoka Tano's going on, and of course we got the Book of Boba Fett. The Republic's rising. Luke's getting together the new Jedi Order. Grogu had a chance to join, but he chose to be a Mandalorian. Oh yeah, and rehabilitation for Imperial officers that were once Imperial but are now Wait, what? What? Are we really in the time of peace? Or there's something sinister going on? Something sinister is going on. I gotta put on my Detective Batman thinking caps. What's going on? I don't think Darth Sidious is really gone. Oh my gosh, we're in big trouble. The First Order's gonna start. Run for your life! Now, I'm going to talk about a very simple timeline. It's a break in the action. It's called Ewok Adventures. Now, I know a lot of you fans, out there, probably think I'm nuts for talking about this, but Ewok Adventures in my book is still a piece of Star Wars history, and it should be honored as such. Of course, it has nothing to do with the main story, War of Star Wars, but it is still canon because it still takes place in the Star Wars universe. These cute little Ewoks live on this gorgeous little planet full of vegetation and life, and it's really nice just to see a little break in the action. And I personally like the animated version myself, and it's pretty soothing to watch on a rainy day. So yeah, I do love the Ewok adventures. I know it is not one of your favorites to talk about, and not many people talk about this one, but I still, in my personal Star Wars history, included the holiday special. I still feel it is an important start of Star Wars history, and I do enjoy it on a nice Christmas or something. About Ahsoka Tano Mortis and the Daughter's Light. Ahsoka Tano is the Daughter's Light, and Anakin is back, yo. Ooh, and that means Anakin's gonna get a second chance to balance the Force, is what I believe. And someone's gonna play the Sun, and it's gonna be a whole new balance of Force deities. That is what I believe. Resistance. This is like in the timeline of the beginning of the Resistance, and right on the midst of the sequel trilogy, where it takes place that a young guy, Cass, goes to this planet to work as a mechanic, but a secret agent for the rebels. And it's a really good backstory, and I do enjoy it, so I would recommend watching that one. Also, getting onto the main deal, the sequel trilogy, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. Eric, did you know Princess Leia had a son, Kylo Ren? And then we get introduced to a new character named Rey. Now, this character has been saved as a baby from the evil Darth Sidious, and guess who she is? Darth Sidious's granddaughter. Dun dun dun. Yeah, and it goes on to tell us about the future, that there is a new threat, and the First Order has risen, using Kylo Ren as a pawn in the game. Yeah, Lord Darth Sidious is back, and he wants his revenge, creating a bunch of Sith clones to go with him so he can actually rule the galaxy again and destroy the rebels once and for all, with no concern as to what's going to happen next, plunging the galaxy into darkness. But there is new hope when Rey stands up and says, "Be with me." But for those fans of you out there who are wondering why people are upset with this scene, it's because they removed something even grander than the scene you've seen with Rey defeating Palpatine. If you look on YouTube, there is a deleted scene of Anakin Skywalker, and apparently it was not Rey who defeated Palpatine, it was Anakin Skywalker who did it. He came down in his Force Ghost form, passed into Rey, and turned into Anakin, and destroyed Palpatine once and for all as the chosen one. And the other Jedi joined him in the fight, so the Jedi came down to help, and they all nailed him. So that's what really happened. Like the Lego version of Star Wars Holiday Special. Explaining Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Visions is basically campfire stories that bounty hunters and people told around a campfire, as in legends. It's not really what happened in the Star Wars universe. It's just stories around a campfire. May the Force be with you.